Hi, everyone. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about sort of the key ideas of Robert Merton's Anomie article, as well as Cloward and Olin's article that followed that. So you may have realized, some of you, that the Cloward and Olin article is written almost as a direct follow-up or response to Merton's article about anomie. So in Merton's view, anomie, which Emil Durkheim was the one who originally coined that term, and that was intended to describe sort of a state of normlessness. So Durkheim is writing during the time of the Industrial Revolution, mass urbanization, people moving to cities on a scale never seen before, factories, those kinds of things. And what he's describing is essentially a societal condition, in which people are experiencing the social world in a way they never have before. And it's a little bit unclear what the norms are, right? We haven't been doing this long enough to have clear rules and expectations. So he was saying that when you had cities of this size, and people living in these conditions in ways that had never occurred before in human history, that this would lead to sort of a situation in which people felt just a little bit lost in the social world, where they weren't clear on what was necessarily expected of them and how things were supposed to work. So that's the original definition of anomie. So Merton takes that definition, and you find this happens a little bit often and can be kind of confusing and seem unnecessarily confusing, I guess. So what you find is Merton takes this term anomie and he sort of adapts it a little bit to talk about a condition in which people have been told by society these are the culturally approved goals, right? So the culturally approved goals in the United States, we primarily think of the American dream, right? So you're supposed to want to be materially successful. So we've told people this is what you're supposed to want. And then we've told people this is how you're supposed to achieve it, primarily hard work and education. Well, for some people, they don't have access to those means of achieving the goal, right? So there's these goals we've told you that you should want to achieve, and here's how we've said you should get it. And for some people, he says, this doesn't work, right? And he describes, in his typology, he describes different responses to that situation in which the goals and the means are really not in alignment for people. And he's essentially talking about this state of anomie as a little bit more on an individual level, whereas Durkheim, it did affect individuals in Durkheim's view, but it was a little bit more of a societal condition. For Merton, he's kind of bringing it down a little bit to the micro level, where it's a little bit of an individual condition. A person is experiencing this disjunction between what they're told to want and how they're told to get it. So in his view, in Merton's view, it's again sort of this sense of being lost, where what you told me I should want and how I should get it, I'm not finding that to work for me, right? So then Merton goes on to describe these adaptations to that experience, or that sense of normlessness or being lost sort of in the system. Okay. So Merton then obviously talks about the conformist, the person who adopts both the means and the goals, talks about the rebel, the person who adopts the goals, but because their access to the typical means might be blocked, they, no, sorry. See, this is why I need to be in a classroom with a whiteboard. The innovator is the one who adopts the goals, but doesn't have the same access to the means, so they create their own, right? So you might think of somebody who's a drug dealer. That is a situation in which somebody wants the material success, the wealth, right? But they don't have the same level of access to education and hard work, maybe, so they create their own. Then you have let's see, I always have to make the chart in my head or on a whiteboard. So the conformist does both. The innovator does the goals, but not the means. Then the ritualist has given up on the goals but is still going through the motion of the means. And then he has the retreatist, who has given up on both. And then I believe the rebel is then the one where they replace it with their own goals and means, right? So that's sort of Merton's general theory, right? When you have this condition for people in which the goals and the means, there's this disjunction that they experience. He calls it anomie, and he says these are the ways people respond to that, okay? So then you have Cloward and Olin, and this gets into sort of kind of the homework questions. So Cloward and Olin said, Merton's theory is pretty good. He's on to something, right? That there are some people who lack access to the traditional structure by which we give people the means to achieve those goals. They lack access perhaps to the educational opportunities or the job opportunities or both, okay? But Cloward and Olin said Merton is missing a pretty significant piece of the puzzle, and that is Merton's theory does not account for the fact that there is a legitimate opportunity structure, but there's also an illegitimate opportunity structure. What they're saying is when somebody goes out to become a drug dealer, that person is not manifesting or creating a drug trade out of thin air. That is not their creation. That all exists external to that individual. All they're doing is walking into an opportunity structure that already existed, okay? So what Cloward and Olin are saying is we have these goals, we have the legitimate means of achieving them, we also have the illegitimate means of achieving them, and those two opportunity structures, legitimate and illegitimate, already exist external to any individual, okay? So if you think about people who say when you would arrest a street-level drug dealer, you didn't fundamentally change the drug trade. You didn't change anything about supply and demand. All you did was create a job opening. That's the illegitimate opportunity structure. That's what Cloward and Olin are talking about, okay? So again, they're saying Merton has a general idea that we like, but he's not recognizing and accounting for the fact that this illegitimate opportunity structure is already there. We're not talking about a situation in which people go out and create an illegitimate opportunity for themselves or create this whole new system or network in which they've created or innovated to get these illegitimate ways of achieving the goals. That stuff's already there. All they have to do is take the job offer, so to speak, okay? And then, of course, Cloward and Olin do talk about the people who have access neither to legitimate nor illegitimate opportunity structures. And of course, those are the people that they refer to as the double failures. So that's just a little bit about sort of how the Merton article and the Cloward and Olin article fit together. And hopefully that you all were able to pick up at least the basics, the basic framework of both articles. But in case you weren't, I thought it would be a good idea to clarify. Most of the time, the article pairings are not quite as explicit as this one, but this is one case where I really wanted to make sure that you understood what these articles are saying and how the second one is written almost in direct response to the first. Hope you have a great day.